going to do a quick podcast here on the situation on the front lines of Ukraine in the war against Russia. Things are looking very grim for the Ukrainian army at this point. It seems that morale is suffering. There are several cases of the Ukrainian troops fleeing to the rear and making appeals to Zelensky that they cannot fight anymore. They're not surrendering, but they're just basically saying that we're not fighting. They're claiming that they're ill-equipped. They don't have any to heavy weaponry that they need, that they're not getting supplies. There's no reserves, and so on. So they're basically saying that they're going to refuse to fight in the combat zones. Other cases of Ukrainian troops trying to surrender, and they have made arrangements with the Russians that they would meet in a certain zone where they were, at that point, they would be taken into custody of the Russians. And we found out that the Ukrainian troops never appeared at these zones and that they had been murdered by their comrades. Another problem for the Ukrainians, and something that's been going on for the entire war, is that the Ukrainians are leaving all their corpses behind. As far as I know, there's no cases of Ukrainians making arrangements or making attempts to retrieve any corpse of any of their soldiers. I think this is extremely demoralizing, as the countryside is littered with Ukrainian troops that have died in combat. Even their wounded are being left behind, and the Russians have to tend to the wounded Ukrainian soldiers. So I think those sights are appalling and extremely demoralizing for the Ukrainian troops. Other factors going on the front lines is the Russians are really beefing up their heavy weaponry. They're bringing in things like the Terminator tanks, very heavy artillery, and they're also using a lot of the expertise that they've picked up over the last several weeks to really hone their skills. So their artillery is quite devastating at this time. So there's other cases of the Ukrainians just losing it, becoming insane, cowering in fear, and basically just begging for their lives. And I posted one Ukrainian soldier before in the trench, just basically begging Zelensky to the situation and to end it. Basically, he knows he's going to die. And there's another video here of a Ukrainian soldier just going into fetal position and crying like a baby and peeing in his pants. I think this is what happens after a month or two of massive artillery attacks every night, and snipers, and under constant threat of special ops forces using night vision. I think it ended up being like a terror campaign against the Ukrainians. Just the sheer weight of what the Russians are throwing at them. And I think the whole army of the Ukrainians is on the verge of collapse. These are not isolated cases. The entire army is suffering from widespread shortages, lack of food, lack of fuel, lack of ammunition. Command and control has been targeted since the beginning. So there's very little coordination. Their aircraft is pretty much non-existent at this point. Most anything that comes close to the front lines is shot down. The Russians brought up all their sophisticated anti-aircraft defenses. So I think that the lines of the Ukrainians are in imminent danger of complete collapse. And we're talking probably, I had originally thought it might last a couple weeks, but at the rate things are going, they may only last a few more days. There are some areas that are currently being encircled, and the Ukrainians have tried to break out, and they're unable to. So this is not going well for the Ukrainians. Now, what would you expect to happen at this point? Okay. Now, you know that the NATO commanders and the Ukrainian leadership knows that everything's falling apart. Okay. So, what do you think they're going to do? You know, for one, you've got all the propaganda, months and months on end, showing that Ukrainians were winning. In fact, they were pushing the Russians all the way back to the Russian border. Can you believe this? And they actually did a PSYOP video of a fake marker showing that the Ukrainian troops are pushing the Russians all the way back, and they captured the Ukrainian marker. And it was all basically a fake lie. They actually carried a wooden marker with them, and they planted it into a field somewhere. And they all posed in their selfies and everything in front of this marker, and put it out there as it's just another lie. Everything is a lie from the Ukrainians. And really, it's more the British and the United States that are doing all this, along with the Ukrainians. Probably mostly, actually, the United States and the British. All kinds of fake actors and CGI. It's just unreal. So anyway, as I was saying, what do you think they're going to do? Well, one would be a false flag. They are either going to intervene in some way, make an excuse to intervene, or they're going to try to kind of thwart the Russians a little bit with the accusations of chemical weapons or some kind of a biological attack or another massacre. They're going to try to concoct something a la Syria, White Helmet style. So I would not be surprised if you see some type of a false flag. Also, there's whispers of trying to restart the peace talks, probably to try to buy some time, to do something to beef up the Ukrainian defenses, which are ready to collapse. So they're gonna try to maybe at the last minute try to say that they wanted some kind of a peaceful settlement. But the Russians know, from before, the Ukrainians are just playing games, And it's not even really Ukrainians. It's the United States mostly that's controlling the whole process there, and demanding that the Ukrainians do not surrender and stick to some kind of unrealistic demands placed upon the Russians. Like they actually told the Russians that they wanted the Russians to surrender and leave. I mean, can you believe this? It's on another planet, a level of irrational thinking and irrational behavior akin to drug addicts. With the Americans and the Ukrainian leadership, this planet that they're living on, it's not here. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video, post some things here about what I'm talking about, and again, it's unfortunate that this is the situation for Ukraine, but I've always said since the beginning that that bringing the war on with Russia was the absolutely worst thing that they could have ever done, and they could have simply agreed to the basic demands, which were already set forth in the Minsk Accords, which were never honored by the United States or the Zelensky regime. So this is the outcome that was chosen by Ukraine and the United States. Thanks for listening.